YouTube, it's NowIAmNappy, and I'm back for another Tip Tuesday. Now this week we are going to be talking about the pH of our skin and our hair, as well as our hair products. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so in the beginning part of this video, we're going to discuss pH. And then next we're going to discuss the acid mantle layer of our skin and how that determines the pH of our body. And then finally, how that impacts the products that we're using or how they impact our pH. All right, so let's first get into pH. Now, pH actually means the potential for hydrogen, and this ranges on a scale between 0 to 14. Now, 0 being the most acidic and 14 being alkaline or very, very basic. Now, a lot of you guys know that 7 is neutral, which means it has no charge, and that's usually water, which is around 7 pH. And as we lose ions or we go further up the scale, it becomes more alkaline each level. Then as we gain more ions, it becomes more acidic, okay, as we move further and further down that scale. Now, just to know, a 1 level increase, so for instance, a level from 6 to 7 is not just 1 level, it's actually times 10 times the amount. So that's actually a greater amount. So imagine if you went from a 6 to 8, that's almost 100 times the amount. Now that's really, really important, especially when we're deciding about hair products, because anything too high or too low on that scale can have a detrimental impact on our hair strand. All right, so we're next going to talk about the pH of our skin and scalp. Now, y'all, this is determined by the acid mantle that's found all over our skin and bodies. And this layer is actually a thin, moist, protective layer all over our body. And it is made up of sebaceous glands, of sweat glands, and fatty acids that are broken down to help protect our skin from any bad bacteria. Now, again, this is obviously called the acid mantle, so that means it's acidic, and that ranges from about 4.5 to 6.2. And as you know, this varies from person to person because we all have different organisms and sweat and all that wonderful stuff. So now that we learned about the pH of the acid mantle layer, it's time to focus a little bit on the electrical charge of our hair. As many of you guys know, our hair is actually negatively charged, and this is actually really, really important when we are conditioning and shampooing our hair, because a lot of times we use cationic emulsifiers. Now, cationic emulsifiers are positively charged. So when you have that negative charge, you have that positive charge, they find each other and they meet and they love each other. Now, this is actually called the Isoionic point. So don't check out with me, y'all. Just stay with me here, okay? So the Isoionic point for our hair is at a pH of about 5.6. And this is when all the negative charges and all the positive charges are in equal balance. And that's when your hair is happy, conditioned, and like loving each other, like, oh, we happy out here, okay? So what happens then when we add something more alkaline to it or we add something acidic? Let's focus on what happens when we add something more alkaline to this mixture, to our hair. Now, something more alkaline could be water, right? Because remember the acid, remember we're at 5.6 and water is at a level of 7. So as we increase, or maybe we go swimming, which can have a pH of about 7.5, or maybe we're out in the sun, or of course we use any type of chemical treatments, we're going higher and higher up in that pH. What happens to our hair? Well, that actually allows a lot of water to absorb deep into our hair strand, and it causes that to swell and the cuticles to lift up and cause a lot of friction and tangling. As you know, sometimes when you wash your hair and you leave your hair under that water for too long, it becomes very, very matted and tangled. It increases the electrostatic friction, causing frizz and sometimes damage to your hair as it becomes more and more alkaline. Now, what happens when we use something very acidic on our hair? So a lot of us think of this as maybe we do that apple cider vinegar rinse to close our hair. Now, this is where we're going to talk about the isoelectric point. So anything that's below a level of 5.5, as you know, 5.6 is the happy point. Anything 5.5 or lower can bring our hair to its isoelectric point. And that's the point where the cuticles are lying very, very flat. So that means particles can't migrate into any electrical field. It doesn't mean positive and it can't be negative. So it's this point where it's not charged and it's just like flat, laying there, very, very flat. Okay, and that can be good in a sense. You know, some people say that, you know, I'm sealing or I'm closing my cuticles. So having an isoelectric point of about 3.6 can be a good thing, but it also just depends on where you are in your wash day or maybe in your remoisturizing process. As you know, at 3.67, any type of cationic conditioners cannot bind to that hair shaft because you need a negative charge here for the positive charge here to bind and add moisture and condition your hair, right? So some people will like to stay in a range of about 4.5 to about 6 because it allows for your hair to become remoisturized. Your hair cuticle still lays flat. It's not as tightly or flatly closed at that low isoelectric point, but it does allow for better remoisturization practices. Additionally, I recommend always staying within a range of 4 to 9 throughout your wash day. I would not go higher than 9 in your wash day in your shampoo process. And then always making sure you bring that back down to about 5.5, 6 to make your hair at that perfect isoionic point, okay? I know that was a lot of chemistry, and I'm glad that you guys stayed with me. Now, in the final part of this, I want to just talk a little bit about how to check the pH of your products. We make a lot of DIY products, so it's really important that we know what we're using and putting on our hair to see if our hair likes it or which stage we should be using it in. Now, there are multiple ways to check the pH of your products. Right now, I'm currently using pH strips, which you can find. I'll link them down on the website down below for you guys. They're very easy to use. There's also a pH meter, which I'm kind of still researching which one will be best. But I'm going to show you guys how to use this if you've never used it. It is very simple. For today, I'm going to be using my oat and aloe deep conditioner just to show you guys. Okay. All you do is take your strip. You're going to take the side that has the 3 things here and just dip it in your product. Then you want to wait. What's up? How you doing? What's going on? Leave me a comment down below about how your day is going. Okay, and after the product has been saturated on there, you're going to bring this right up to, you're going to bring this right up to the product here and find out what range you're in. Now I'm right between about 5 to 5.5, which is right where I want to be, as you guys saw. And it's simple as that. And you can test this out again with products that have water and oil emulsions, and also on just water or tea-based products. Now I find a lot with a lot of floral waters and with teas that they are quite acidic, okay? So it's very important to make sure you're diluting them well enough. You need to make sure you're diluting them well enough so that they're not too acidic, or if you want to dilute them to where your isoelectric point is as the sealant, that also can be fine as well. Okay, so this one is still a bit acidic. It's probably about 3.5. I'm going to show you guys in a second. You can make your product more basic or acidic. There's definitely a way to do that. If you're curious on that, please leave a comment down below, and I'll show you guys how to do that in another video. I want to show you probably close to around 3.5 here, and that is kind of acidic. There are ways to make your products more basic in this rare occasion, and for most people more acidic using citric acid or acetic acid. There's different ways to do this. If you guys are curious about that, you can leave it in the comment section down below. And I'll try to make a video next week. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about scalp health, because you guys, pH is not the only thing that's really important in having a healthy hair, or a healthy hair regimen. There are other important factors in keeping your scalp and hair happy and healthy, with pH, of course, being very important. But I want to discuss that in another video. So if you guys have any questions regarding pH and this information here, please leave it in the comment section down below, and I'll be answering them in the part 2 of this, along with scalp health. All right, but that's it for this week Tip Tuesday. I'll see you next time. Bye.